let's talk about the hypocrisy of Robyn saying, I wish the other wives would stop talking about Cody's and my relationship. Absolutely. Because first of all, we see her talking about other people's relationships all the time. She would say stuff like, well, we made this mistake, or we made that. We didn't always trust each other, or there was a lot of jealousy. Do we for a second think she's referring to herself? No, she's talking about either Janelle, Christine, or Mary. And she's talking about their relationships. In this episode that we saw her fully admit that she talked about Mary and Cody's relationship, because when they were watching the footage of Mary moving and they said, well, what did you think when you saw Mary and Cody laughing? She's like, that's what I'm talking about. I talk to Cody all the time about Mary and how I could see the potential for them and blah, blah, blah. Whether she wants to admit it or not, that is her talking about other people's relationship with Cody. So that is hypocritical. Sorry, all worked up and can't pronounce words. But it's not just that. It's also the very nature of the show. They're on a show called Sister Wives, which was meant to highlight their family dynamics. That is what people are doing. There's a lot of, even Mary kind of insulted Christine in the sneak peek. We'll see if in context it actually sounds the way it sounds. But she said something about like, why are you sitting around with your husband talking about your ex-husband? Because it's a TV show. It's a TV show. The show is about this family structure. And so at Valentine's Day, where she's talking about what it meant to be monogamous versus polygamous, they probably said, why don't you sit down and talk about how Valentine's Day is different when you were polygamous versus monogamous? A certain amount of this is just producer run. A certain amount of it is also like, what you do when you're in a relationship? You talk about your life. And for 30 years, Christine's life was about polygamy and Cody, and a huge part of her current life is still about that, because she's sharing custody with this man. She's going to court with him. They recently lost a child. Like all of this stuff happens to where it's like, I think it's very normal to have these conversations. And so the idea that they would never talk about it. But anyway, this idea is they're on a TV show. If Robyn doesn't want them to talk about her, maybe they shouldn't all be on a TV show. You know who on the Real Housewives? You know who they don't talk about? Old housewives. Like when the housewives leave the show, boom, there's usually, I'm not saying it's like perfect, but yeah, they tend to talk about who else is on the show. And even though Real Housewives and Sister Wives are two very different shows, they're not so different that the rules of television just go away. So, Robyn probably thinks she's being real sneaky by standing around and saying she doesn't remember, she doesn't know, she's not going to answer this. But she talks just as much about Mary, Janelle, and Christine as Mary, Janelle, and Christine ever talk about her. Maybe not Mary, because Mary has not fully departed Cody's station yet, and she hasn't really talked much about Robyn. I think if the show runs long enough, we'll eventually get there, because Cody's talking so badly about Mary's friends and stuff. We'll see. But just this idea that somehow Robyn is so above everybody else when she's the biggest snake of them all just drives me nuts.